Hi, I'm Dr. Robin Koslowitz, YouTube's post-traumatic parenting expert. Today we're going to talk about spanking children, the Harvard study that spanking can harm children, and alternatives to spanking for those of us who were spanked, who think, spanking is not consistent with my values anymore, but what can I do instead? What's this whole thing with punishment versus consequences versus gentle parenting? Let's understand all of that. But first, if you like this kind of content and you're curious about alternatives to spanking, gentle parenting after being traumatized, how to give your kids a normal childhood, even if yours was anything but, how to parent after trauma when you're feeling so depleted, click subscribe below so you never miss a single episode. We cannot wait to welcome you to the post-traumatic parenting community. You can also check us out on Instagram and Facebook, and you can find the post-traumatic parenting podcast wherever you get your podcasts. So let's talk a little bit about spanking. So there was a study, the last video that I had, click the link below, is all about this Harvard study that found that spanking has much more serious effects on the brain, particularly the amygdala, the part of our brain that processes emotion, and the part of our brain that processes social skills and that allows us to handle social situations appropriately. That spanking can really affect those parts of the brain. And when I posted that video, I got a lot of pushback from people who were saying, I was spanked and I'm fine, or, well, I can't figure out another way to stop my kid's behavior except spanking. And I get it. I was spanked as a kid. I know many people who were, and many of us found spanking inconsistent with our values, but perhaps as beginning parents thought, but what do I do? Like, my kid is taking his toy truck and slamming it against his younger brother's head. How am I going to teach him not to do that if I don't spank? So let's learn a more effective way. Not only is spanking unwise from a psychological resources perspective, from a lot of research studies that are showing that spanking can really be a problem for kids' neurological development, but it also doesn't work. Spanking doesn't actually teach the lesson we're trying to teach. Let's explore why we think the punitive power of pain has such educational value, because it actually doesn't. Let's also understand, for those of us who are coming from a place of, I was spanked and I'm fine. Maybe you are fine, but you could be finer had you not been spanked. Maybe you are fine because you were spanked just once or twice, but you were getting angry at your kid. Maybe your kid's more rambunctious than you were, and you're spanking a lot more than you were spanked, harder, with more harshness, right? So you were spanked, but perhaps the way you were spanked and the way you are spanking, or the way your spouse is spanking, is different. Let's not forget that. And for those who are coming to this from a religious/biblical perspective, saying things like, the Bible says, spare the rod and spoil the child, let's understand that there are many Bible scholars who interpret that very differently than take a steel rod and hit your kid. Spare the rod and spoil the child actually refers to a shepherd's crook. And if you've ever seen a shepherd use his crook, if you've ever seen in Toy Story when Bo Peep wants her little sheep to come with her, she takes the crook and she gently pulls them towards her. Perhaps, I'm just going to give permission for those of us who interpret the Bible slightly differently, perhaps the rod is talking about the shepherd's crook. When your child is straying off the path and doing the wrong thing, draw them gently towards you with the shepherd's crook and hold them close. Perhaps that's an alternative explanation for that verse that can give somebody who feels guilty or wrong if they're not spanking permission to have a different approach and not be doing something that isn't consistent with their religious background, perhaps. So let's talk about more effective ways to teach children. And let's talk about punishments versus consequences. So a punishment is when I am intentionally inflicting pain on a person with the thought that this will either teach them a lesson, like they have to learn, or this will serve as a deterrent for other people who will see them get a punishment and then they won't want to do it because it's like a cautionary tale. That's what a punishment is. A consequence is a natural outcome that happens as a child acts in a certain way. So the consequence of that is something else. For example, if my son is taking his toy truck and whacking it on his brother's head, looks like we can't play with toy trucks right now. We're only going to be able to play with soft and gentle toys. And I'm going to take the truck away and I'm going to put it up. Is my intention to cause my child distress? No, my child might be very distressed. My 2-year-old might cry because he wants his truck. He might say, yucky, mommy. He might be very, very, very upset. He might sit down and scowl. He might do all of those things. But is he, am I intentionally trying to distress him? No. If we can't play with toys gently, then we can't play with toys that have hard edges. So we're going to put the toy on the top shelf. And here is a rag doll. Here are I have some soft plushy cars that are, that don't have hard edges. We can play with those for a while. Now that we're playing calmly for a while, we're going to take the truck back out and we can try again and see if now we're able to play safely with the truck. The idea is not to inflict pain. The idea is to stop the behavior, redirect the child's energy. And yes, the child will naturally learn, not because you need to learn your lesson. Naturally, the child learns, when I get very rambunctious with my truck, my mom puts it away. So yeah, since I like playing with my truck, I'm not going to get as rambunctious. I don't need to say those words. I'm going to show you from a book, Lily's Purple Plastic Purse by Kevin Henkes, how a consequence is used properly by a teacher. We're going to unpack the consequence. So we have Lily. She loves her teacher and she's a very exuberant kid. One day she comes to school and she has this purple plastic purse that plays music from her grandma, and she loves her purple plastic purse and she's so excited to have it and she wants to show her classmates. But it's during story time, it's during circle time, it's during another child's turn to talk, and she keeps taking it out and showing other kids. And her teacher says, Lily really wanted to show everyone. Not now, said Mr. Slinger. Let's be considerate of our classmates. Lily had a hard time being considerate. Lily really wanted to show everyone, right? And she keeps having a hard time. She keeps interrupting the class by opening this purse that plays music and disrupting. So finally, her teacher says, now he doesn't punish her. And interestingly enough, I read this book with a school full of elementary school children, different age grades. The younger the children, when I asked them, what should Mr. Slinger do? The younger the grade, the more punitive the children, because punitive harshness comes from an inner child. So the kindergartners, the first graders, they said, he should send her to the principal. He should make her sit in the uncooperative chair for the rest of the day. He should kick her out. He should throw her purple plastic purse in the garbage. He should take it away till the end of the year. So then the older grades, we got, let's say, third graders were saying things like, he should take it away till the end of the year. He should take it away and give it to the principal. The fifth graders were saying things like, he should take it away and put it in his desk till the end of the day. The seventh graders, the eighth graders were saying the same things. So if you notice, the more evolved the child, the older, the more appropriate an adult, the more their adult consciousness is starting to emerge, the less punitive they get. We have to examine our desire to punish and ask ourselves, am I actually trying to inflict pain on my child because I truly believe this will teach them a lesson? Or is my inner child mad and wants to hit right now? Does my inner child just want to lash out? It's a question, because if you're spanking your child and you're feeling angry, you have to ask yourself, is this about me needing to discharge my anger? Or is this truly about what I say it is, which is teaching my child a life lesson? Ask yourself that question, and you may be surprised how often your desire to hit comes from a place of anger and not a true educational imperative. So what does Mr. Slinger do? I'll just keep your things at my desk until the end of the day, said Mr. Slinger. They'll be safe there, and then you can take them home. No shaming statements, no Lily, you're a bad girl, No harsh punishment. This is an appropriate consequence. We can't learn math if if your purse is playing a loud tune. So I'm going to take the purse away, put it in my desk, and you're going to get it back as soon as the day is over. Now, how does Lily feel? She feels distressed, not because Mr. Singer tried to make her feel distressed, but because it's natural to feel distressed when you lose a valued possession. Lily's stomach lurched. She felt like crying. Her glasses were gone. Her quarters were gone. Her purple plastic purse was gone. Lily longed for her purse all morning. She was even too sad to eat the snack that Mr. Slinger gave out before recess. Now, then Lily gets angry and she draws a very nasty picture of her teacher. That's a separate story. We can talk about and unpack that much later. Here's her angry drawing of her teacher. Now, at the end of the day, Mr. Slinger goes to Lily, and we're going to notice that he's not going to lecture. He's not going to try to make her feel bad. She already feels bad. He doesn't need to do that. All he needs to do is now give back the purse. So the students are ready to go home. Mr. Slinger strolled over to Lily and gave her purple plastic purse back. It's a beautiful purse, said Mr. Slinger. Your quarters are nice and jingly. Those glasses are absolutely fabulous. And the purse is absolutely wonderful. You may bring them back to school as long as you don't disturb the rest of the class. And now Lily answers him very rudely. Now, if you notice, he's validating. He's telling Lily, yeah, you made a mistake. You shouldn't have done that. He's not saying those words, though. He's validating that, yeah, the purse is so pretty and the glasses are so sparkly and you just wanted to show everybody. I get it. You made a mistake with your big emotions. He didn't even have to say those words. But you can say to a kid, I get it. You got so mad that you pushed your brother. I get it. You were really, really, really mad. It was hard for you. I don't have to say, but when we're mad, we can't push. Because the kid's going to feel validated and they're going to know, they're going to feel supported, and they're going to naturally have what happened next. So Lily's on her way home, and on the way home, Lily opened her purse. Her glasses and quarter were inside. So was a note from Mr. Slinger. It said, today was a difficult day. Tomorrow will be better. There was also a small bag of tasty snacks at the bottom of the purse. She doesn't have to lose out on the delicious snacks because she did something wrong. We don't have to inflict pain to teach a lesson. She already learned her lesson just from the natural, logical consequence of her actions. Now, what happens next is interesting. Lily's stomach lurched. She felt like crying. She felt simply awful. The emotion Lily is feeling here is guilt. Guilt is an emotion that happens when we know that we did something that violates our own values and our own moral code. Guilt, we don't want our children to grow up without the capacity for guilt. We don't want them to feel unjustified guilt when they do something that they didn't do wrong and they feel bad about it. But justified guilt, we don't want to raise entitled narcissists to walk around like, yeah, I was mean, but he had it coming to him. Yeah, I shoved to the head of the line. The loser didn't move fast enough. Too bad. If I shove to the head of the line and someone taps me on the shoulder and says, excuse me, I don't know if you noticed, but I was here first, I would hope my guilt would make me say, my appropriate guilt, oh, I am so sorry I didn't see you. They're here. I'm going to step behind you. How can I make that up to you, right? If it's somebody I know well, that would be appropriate use of guilt. I did the wrong thing. Let me correct and fix it, right? Lily is feeling guilt, not because Mr. Slinger says to her, you should feel guilty. When someone tells you, you should feel guilty, you should be ashamed of yourself. What you feel in that moment is not shame, you feel anger. Sometimes you feel intense sadness and it demotivates you to change. Lily felt guilty because here she was being rude to Mr. Slinger, and he wrote her such a nice note. He was so validating and kind. He did give back the purse. He even gave her snacks because he didn't punish her. He gave her a consequence, an appropriate, logical, normal consequence. So therefore, her own sense of, oh, I did the wrong thing, had an opportunity to grow within her. She goes home. She writes an apology note to him. Her parents write a note as well. They bake some snacks to give out to the class. And the next day, she has a much better day in school, of course, because now she's learned her lesson. And what happens the next day? She comes to school, she apologizes, she says, I'm really, really, really sorry. And Mr. Slinger looks at the note and the snacks. And she gets to show off her purse during sharing time. And then let's see if she learns her lesson. Throughout the rest of the day, Lily's purse and quarters and sunglasses were tucked safely inside her desk. She peeked at them often, but she did not disturb a soul. She learned her lesson. Mr. Slinger didn't have to send her to the principal. Mr. Slinger didn't have to inflict pain, take away her recess, take away her snack. All he had to do was validate her emotions and help her feel supported and provide a natural, boundary, appropriate consequence. And naturally, she learned. We don't have to teach for children to learn. We have to set up the conditions so that they learn. That's what we have to do as post-traumatic parents. That might not have been modeled to us, but we can do this. So yeah, your kid is acting rambunctious on the playground. Time to go home. Right? Your kid had a chore of clearing the table and instead they went outside to play basketball and they didn't clear the table. Tomorrow, I know that like it gets dark really early now and you want to catch the sunlight and go out and shoot some hoops. You're going to have to clear the table. The instant supper is over. You can't go out until you've cleared the table because I can't trust you right now because yesterday you broke my trust. So today I can't give you that leeway of clearing the table as soon as it gets dark out. You're going to have to clear the table. The instant supper is over. Then you've restored your trust and move on from life and hopefully we'll never repeat this again. You should be ashamed of yourself. You didn't clear the table. That doesn't teach anything. That either inspires shame, which just demotivates the child. It inspires sadness or anger. None of those things teach anybody. And when Lily goes home, she's happy because her guilt is over because she has learned her lesson now. So for those of you who are asking, what are my alternatives to spanking? Your alternatives to spanking are the natural, gentle, logical consequences that we can provide our children that don't have the additive harshness of punitive physical abuse, pain, making them experience suffering. That is probably coming from your inner child. It certainly does not educate your actual real life children. If you like this content, please click subscribe. I really want to hear what you think of this video and where you are on your journey of being a cycle breaker. Please comment below with your questions and suggestions for future videos. And thank you for joining the post-traumatic parenting community. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and the Post-Traumatic Parenting Podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. Bye-bye.